But what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to actually go and go to the next tool, which is the insert tool, because there's a lot of things that you can insert. And so we're going to go right over here and use the insert tool. But I'm going to give us a blank canvas. All right. So with that, this plus sign, right? This is where I can insert all my things. And if you see at the top, insert new. So I could say insert new picture, right? And it pulls up this right there. There are my notes. I could flip it just like it's a camera, right? It's a camera app. So here I am on my iPad. I could choose to insert a picture of me that way with whatever I'm doing, right? And I actually have it in the settings, so it flips it. And so that's what I did there. And so I could do that. I'm going to say cancel for now. The other thing, I'm going to put this back down, right? I could do is I could add new videos, browser, which is really cool. But I'll go to that next. Yeah, I'll do browser next. So it's a web browser. And so there are multiple reasons why you might want to use this browser, right? You might want to have students annotate and explain and talk about a website, especially because it is something that we do so much of as a society. We're on so many websites. So you could maybe have students talk about why this is a good resource or why it's not a good resource for either research or just life, right? And so, but let me show you how it works. So what we'll do is I'll just go to www.osu.edu, right? And so they often say that one of the hardest things to do is to type when people are watching. And I was successful on my first try, so you think. All right, so here is the web browser, right? As you can see, it's moving, it's active. It's not a screenshot, all right, of that. So what I can do then is I could interact with it. But so here's what I'll do first. So I'm going to click off of it. So you see how I clicked off of the screen. And then what I can actually do is I can move it around, because maybe I don't want to take up the entire screen this whole time, right? You can change the size. So I'm going to, now when I click off, as you can see, it went to the hand tool. So I could then move this around wherever I want, right? And I could take notes on, I'll say it's a clean look. Nice use of scarlet. Right? And so I can kind of give these critiques, right, of a website as I'm going, right? But the website actually, though, can be interacted with. So if I click on it, I could actually go. So I'm going to click on the top part first. And you see how it kind of brought a blue frame around it. Now I can interact with it. So I could actually go and say, all right, future students, and I can really interact with this website. Or I could scroll. So again, it is not just a screenshot. You could really interact with this website. So as I'm making a video, I can interact with this website and talk about maybe the UI, the user interface. I could talk about the resources. I could talk about how to find and maybe do something in a process you're trying to teach fellow students or fellow teachers or your teacher or whatever it is, you could do that. What's also nice about it, though, is I could actually annotate on top of it. So I'm going to use this color. Let's go back to the hand tool first. So I'm going to click back on it, right? It has the blue frame, so now I can interact with the website. So here I want to just talk about maybe this part. So I'm going to go to the pen tool, right? And I can actually annotate on top of things, right? So here is all of campus that way. This is a really cool app. I really enjoy it. That looks like a llama. I don't know how to spell llama, so I'm just going to undo that part. But that is what it would be, right? So I'm annotating on top of it, right? But now if I go back to the hand tool, I click on the screen, right? Blue frame brings it up. It actually kind of stayed on there. So I could kind of go back to where I'm going. Now, what it won't do is if you say go to a different site or if you refresh, which is what I just did, right? It won't stay. But as long as you're on the same URL and you don't refresh, right, that stuff will stay there, right? And so I could do it again, you know, whatever. So here's Columbus, right? And so you could do that. And again, like I said, pen tool, click on the frame. And you could go in and out of where you want to put it. You can zoom in on certain things. You can kind of go make it real big, real small, and just have a small part of your presentation. So that is adding a browser. I think that's a really kind of cool feature that people don't always know about. So next one, if I go back to the plus sign, equation. All right, are you a math person? Fortunately or unfortunately, right? As you can see, you kind of have these tools here. So I can click one, and it gives me boxes that I can use. And I kind of missed that one there. There we go. I'm going to delete that, right? And so you could have that sort of thing here. All right, now let's not do that in green. Let me change my tool to black. There we go. All right, now let's try that again. So here I have my equation. I can choose any of these things, right? Now, what you also might notice here is those carets at the top of some of the buttons, the up caret. And so what you could do, though, is hold, and it kind of gives you more options, okay? Or, for example, here's a bunch of things. I don't know what they are. Which is what I'll probably say about everything. Oh, I know those are all in variable letters. Sorry. But anyways, right? So you can click, and if you see those carets, there's more things you could do, right? So if I'm doing a different type of matrices or a set, I guess is what that would be. There we go. That's something for. All right. So you could kind of add these things. You want to make sure, as you can see, everything I've kind of touched, it's been bringing together. And so we probably don't want that. So here, let me go back. I'm going to undo. All right. So, and when I took everything out, I could actually just click it, right, and put my equation in there. All right. As you can see, you have, in this equation box, you have 3 buttons as well, right? This one, well, just move it to where you want it to be. That's in the top left. On the bottom right, it just changes the size. And then the check mark is, hey, I'm done with that. So again, you can move things around and move them later. So this can be helpful as well if you're giving students an Explain Everything project and file, and you want them to kind of enter it there. It can be kind of, hey, put your equation there, your final answer, as it needs to be written. Could you also handwrite all of these things? Yes. So it's whatever you choose to do, right? So some people like the equation editor, others do not, and that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this stuff for now. All right, and I'll get into how I did that later. But what we're going to do now is talk about some of these other features when we're using the insert tool. So I'm going to go ahead and add a existing image. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to actually start with a Bitmoji of myself. Does it look like me? All right. So when you bring in an image, whether it be a new one or if you bring in one that's already there, it takes you to this image editor. What an editor really means, it's more of a kind of a cropper. So if you want to do something really intense to an image, you're going to want to use another app to do that before you bring it in to Explain Everything. So whether you're changing the contrast or the colors and that sort of thing, that is not what this is for, but it can do some really cool features. So I want to show you the different cropping tools that are here, as well as what else is here. But so this first one is a lasso, right? And this is nice to bring in just a part of an image, right? So what I could do is I could go ahead and I'm lassoing around part of this. And bringing that in. All right, and so what I did is I chose this area that I want to essentially leave, and everything that's not in that lasso is going to go away. So on the top right, I'm going to hit apply, and that's where it does. Now, you could do that over and over and over before you get to where you like it done. So I could even do it again if I want to cut more out. Less, you're going to have to hit the undo button That's not a thing. But you can keep going this way. And again, you could do that over and over and over as you needed. Right. So that is that sort of crop tool. All right, the next thing, and that's the last crop tool. The next thing is you can see the 90 degrees. That's going to rotate it. So especially if you bring in an image that is sideways, or maybe you just want it sideways. Now, these things you could also rotate later with 2 fingers and do like a twist thing, but I think this can be really handy to use as well. And I'm actually going to cancel and bring it back as a full image. All right. The next one is a rectangular crop tool. And what that does is allows you to crop, as you can probably imagine, as a rectangle. Right? That's what I want. Now, once you make that rectangle either with your pencil or with your finger, right, it brings up these little pointers where you can kind of go and make it exactly what you want after you know it's already there. So I can, maybe I actually just want that. All right, then I can hit apply. Same thing, right? I could do that. Then I could use the lasso tool, or then I could do this crop tool again to just make it a more refined space that I want to bring into my thing. The next thing down is an instant alpha. So essentially, anything you want to make transparent and go away, you would just drag across that color. So with this image, it should be kind of easy because there's white, right? And so what I would do is I'm just going to go whoop. And so see how it kind of already took all that stuff out? And so I could say apply. Now, it's not perfect. As you can see, there's still some places of white. What I sometimes do, and if I see, especially at the bottom, I see some pieces that didn't get it right, I might then just use the rectangular crop tool and just cut those out manually that way too. Now, I could also do that over and over as well, just like I would do the lasso crop tool or the rectangular crop tool. And in fact, I kind of recommend it because sometimes it gets a little easy to kind of take things away. Now, if you're doing an image with a more complex background, like I'll bring one in. Again, me. Right? If I bring this in, does that look like me? Okay. So if I bring that in, if I then do this, right, so it'd be really good for this white part, right? I can take that out. But then see how it can kind of get away from you. And so I'm going to undo, click the undo button. All right, so but let's try it again. So it can get away from you, and if you don't like it, right, you can undo. But if you want to just so start small first, right? If say, all right, perfect. So far, so good. I might say apply, and then I might do it again, right? So this is not Photoshop. It doesn't pretend to be Photoshop. So if you're looking to really do something crazy, I would use another app before you bring it in. And you could then bring it in apps with transparency. So, all right, I'm going to cancel. And that is how you bring in an image. Cool. Oh, video. So let's bring in a video. So I'm going to bring an existing video. Here's one of me. All right. So as you can see, I clicked on the video. I have up top here the scrubber. All right. So I can kind of see the parts of the video. I could also just play the video and hear it. All right. Cool. Then I'm going to say use when I'm ready. Now, again, it's with the hand tool, I could choose to make it bigger and smaller, right? Now, you're bringing in videos, right, that are local on your device, right? They're already there. So either you made them with your device or you brought them in from another device using AirDrop or email or something like that, or cloud-based storage. All right, but now I'm going to click on it, and it brings up kind of my options, right? So I can play. I can choose to change the volume. Maybe I was speaking really loud. I can change that. I could actually kind of scrub through, as well as I can make it just play over and over and over and loop it, which I'm sure is what everyone would want, right?
Trying
so
this video blog.
Right, so I can have that, and then it'll just start over.
iMovie.
Right, such a good video I made. All right, so there, that could be a thing if you want it to be. That is a way to bring video in. What would make more sense probably is if you have students maybe document a process or a thing or try to explain. Maybe it's a slow motion video of a science experiment and you want them to kind of bring that in and use that. Or maybe what you want to do is you want to do a quick interview of someone. And maybe just you're asking someone how to pronounce their name. Maybe, right? A way to kind of respect someone that way. Bring that in. You can have that there. So that is a way to bring in video. All right. Done with that page. I'll do 5 more. Not even joking. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and bring in a file. So I'm going to go ahead first, and I'm going to get rid of these. So we can start fresh. All right. Next, if I do that, is I'm going to go to File. And what that, as you can see, you can bring in photos, which you could do otherwise as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to any of these. You can use any of these cloud-based places. You can bring them in. So I have a Box account. Now, as you can see here, what it does is it allows you to bring in a PDF. This is great for annotating, talking through, giving feedback. It could be for our peers or for your students or for, like I said, a peer review and give your feedback that way. So I'm going to click that. As you can see, it gave me the check mark when it kind of loaded. And then in the top right, I'm going to go ahead and say import. Now, what I could also do, before I click import, you can see these little icons, right? Those essentially just give you options of how it's going to view when you're looking through folders. It's whatever you prefer. It's a preference, right? As well as if you want to go how to sort. So, but I am fine with it that way. I'm going to say import. All right. So when you're doing files, you have some different options. And let me help you talk through these. So at the top, you can see that it has the name. So I'm bringing in part of the strategic plan at Ohio State. Then I could actually see the images, and I can click and unclick what I want to bring in. So even if I would have brought in a document that's 50 pages and I only want to do the first 4, I could just click the first 4, right? And so you could use deselect all, right, especially if it's a bid document, and then that way you could just do a couple few pages. And that's probably what I would do. What I generally like to do is I actually like to first bring things in as separate slides, meaning each of these pages of the PDF will get their own slide, and when you're done with a page, you can move on. So that's one option, and that's what I generally like to do, so I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to hit Add as Separate Slides. All right, so it brought them here in my timeline. As you can see, it's 2 of 6. I'll get to this later. Let's go to that now, that first slide. All right, so here is that page, right? So as you can see, I'm on the hand tool, so I could use 2 fingers, different hands, same hand, whatever. And I could zoom in, and I could do that sort of thing, right? Which I think is pretty handy, right? And so why don't we, since we're doing it this way, why don't we just go ahead and talk about the highlighter tool, which is right underneath the pen tool. And it has some of the same things, right? I can decide the width as well as colors. And what it automatically does is it automatically makes it a little transparent because it's the highlighter tool, right? And so, for example, if I want to say this means our accessibility, teaching, research, and service are there, that'll automatically bring that up, right? And so, and stewardship must be of the highest order. Okay, so I have that there. So I could also use the pen tool. I don't have to use that tool. I could use this, and I could say, go ahead and point. I could change any color. I could underline, right? Now, if I use the hand tool, I could zoom out, and it's still all attached, right? So this is a great way I could kind of annotate, work on, and then I could record and give my audio feedback as well. Maybe if I want to just make sure I clarify, maybe it's a faster work process for you. Or maybe you just want it to be more of a human feel, especially for an online class. Maybe you don't see the student as much. Or if it's a really big class, you don't see that student as much. You're giving that verbal feedback, which could be really handy. So with that, right, you could also be doing, this is a great way using this file feature. You could also bring in, again, PowerPoint slides or Keynote slides, bring those in. And you could even do lectures using your slides, doing your audio. You could add video. You could do animation. You could do lots of things with that. But that's how you might bring in those slides if you're bringing them in as PDF or, like I said, PPTX or a Keynote. Let's actually go ahead and I actually want to try to import these files another way just so you can see what it means. So I'm going to say +, file, box. All right, I'm going to click that document again, import. All right, now, I said add a separate slide, but here, let's see what happens if I insert 2 pages to the current slide. What it does is it puts them right in the middle of the slide I was on, right? And they're actually on top of each other. So I could actually be working from this first slide, right, with the hand tool. All right, and then I can kind of put it to the side, and then I could go and bring the second page right there. So it puts them on top of each other when we do it that way. The next way to do it is if I go to File, click that, and then I'm going to say Import. As you see this little switcher on the right, it says Distribute Pages Vertically. And what it does is it makes it feel like you're reading kind of a PDF, and it kind of presents them one after another on top of each other. Again, it just depends on what you want to do in your workflow. So I'm going to say add 2 pages to the current slide. So as you can see, here is the first page that you've already seen. I'm going to zoom in there with my 2 fingers. I'm using the hand tool. All right, cool. And then I'm going to use just 1 finger, and I can scroll up. And look. There's the next page. That might be what you want to do, but that's how you might insert kind of multiple pages. That's what those things mean. All right, cool. All right, let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to get rid of these. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at how to add clip art. So I'm going to just click on this again. And then there's this Clipart symbol, right? And with that, I could actually click through. On the bottom is this menu, right? So there's custom, there's people, some animals and letters, right? Various foods. And you could add to these later. And actually, we'll get into how to show you how to add your own clip art. But for now, I just want to show you kind of what's here. So you have all these things as possibilities. So what we'll do actually right now is we'll go ahead and add some sort of nice image here. We'll add a background. So let's add this one. All right. So I just clicked on it, touched it. I'm going to go to the hand tool. And now again, like everything, I can use 2 fingers to make bigger. I could make it take up the whole screen if I want. Nice. Very nice. So I could use that, right, as some sort of a background, or I could use any of those things. It's just easy things to bring in to help tell my story, to explain my thinking. Then, with that, right, so I could also add images from the web. And then what it does is it searches some Creative Commons open clip art. So you could search something. So I'm going to go ahead and search Ohio. And it brings in different things, right? And so I'm going to just go ahead and click this Ohio flag. I'm going to say done. We'll move it, hand tool, right? And it brings that in as well. So I don't even have to necessarily go anywhere else to get some of this stuff, right? So I want to use images that I own and I'm able to use, and as well as images like this that I'm allowed to use. And this is built in, which is really nice. So let's, for example, let's go ahead and put the flag. It's just like any other image, right? I'm using 2 fingers, moving it, shrinking it. Just go ahead and put that in the corner there. There's the Ohio flag. The greatest flag in the country, might I dare say. Anyways, let me talk about the next thing, right? So another thing, as you can see, as we add more things, is we can add existing audio. With existing audio, what I could do is I could go ahead and say search for something I have. Now it has to be actually on, I'll bring my keyboard up. It actually has to be on your iPad. It can't be something that's in the cloud. So let's see. Ooh, that's a good one. All right. So what happens is you bring it in. You can move it and hit play. Right, and so it looks a lot like the video, right? How you can loop it, you can have it do whatever you want. So you can change the volume if it's too loud. There we go. That's better. So there it is what that would look like for playing that existing audio. And I don't want to break any copyright or anything for playing some of Tom Petty stuff. But great American artist. All right. I assume he's American, actually. I don't know that for sure. But either way, he's a great artist. So that would be how you add existing audio as well. And later I'll show you how you might be able to add audio and then also kind of move it somewhere else. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to do a video overlay. And what that essentially does is it allows you to add a resource inside of Explain Everything that the user of the project can use, as well as if you're doing a presentation that isn't necessarily part of the presentation. It won't be recorded when you record the video and audio. It won't be recorded as part of that. It can't be, right? It's not, you don't own the content, so it won't be. So for an example, what I might do is I might bring in a URL. And so let me go ahead and open up YouTube. I'm going to get this. I'm going to say copy link. Right. And so then what I'll do is just go ahead and paste it in and say done. Then here what it does, right, is it has this little video. And I can make it bigger, right, from the bottom right corner. There. I can hit play. And it will play, right? It's a YouTube video. Glad to have you. Then what I could do
with us on College Game Day, Reese Davis, Desmond Howard, Lee Corso, and Kirk Herbstreit.
All right. I could bring it back smaller, right? But see this, I could hit this image, and what it does is it pops it up in the right there. So I could easily access it anytime. This could be a good way to make a tutorial video about a process or what you want students to do. You can then set up and Explain Everything project and then kind of add that video there so students or other people can quickly access it and kind of say, okay, what's the next step? What do I need to do next? How do I do this? You could put this video in there, although it would probably be much too long. But you could. I'm not stopping you. All right, so now what we'll do is we're talking about the eraser tool. But before we do that, I'm going to bring in an image. We use an existing image. I'm going to go ahead and use this cool shot of a soccer field. I'm just going to bring it in as a whole. All right, I'm going to move it to the side a little bit. Perfect. All right. So this looks like this is soccer. Looks like there's some sort of drills going on. All right. With that, let's try to kind of annotate on top of what these drills are. All right. So it looks like what they're doing is they're trying to kick a ball to this goal. I do see cones there. let's see here. Let's see if we can we'll move that a little bit. All right, and then if I was going to replicate this over on this other side, I would put some more cones here, and then have them shoot over here. Okay, so I'm putting some ink down here just so I can show you the different parts of the eraser tool. So if I click on this eraser tool, just like before, I could choose the width of my eraser. And then I have 3 options. All right, the first one only does the active area, which it now says I don't have an active area, so it won't let me do it. Oh, no, it will. Just kidding, it didn't choose that one. So, for example, if I'm writing, and let me just do that. So I'm just going to write active. If I switch to the eraser, see how it automatically selects that one? I can only erase what I kind of was just doing. It's not going to erase what isn't an active thing that I've been doing. So this could be really handy if you just did something and you just want to erase just that part. The next one is only going to then erase text, or text you're drawing, hand drawing types of things, right? So here, I could erase that, right? I could even erase that as well. I can change the size. I want that a little bit bigger. And okay. The last one not only erases drawings, but it also erases images as well. So that would be the erase drawings and images part. So if I'm going to then erase these, it would also erase part of the field. What might make more sense, right, is maybe if I'm trying to kind of edge something, or because it's going to bring that as well as that sort of thing, right? And so if I'm erasing, it's going to also erase that, which, you know, chances are that's not what I want at that moment. And there's a good news is you can undo, and that's what I just did, right? I undid what I was doing there. So